do you feel that, in your view, with your experience, how can we make sure that tourism can be further exploited to make sure that we can help the government in terms of revenue management?
Definitely, it's a very important element. I think this is one of the key contributor to the economic situation where you and I are impacted, where the dollars would flow in. So one is to the government drive. So I already just said we are not going, we may depend on them, we may not. But this is something every level we can do. And already there are a lot of organizations, be it Jetwing or Akan Spends or Hemas Travels or Acon or different people, they work on different groups and spreading the news of Sri Lanka. So I think I see back again, I think we have hit already the 1 million tourists back, and we believe we can bring 2.5 million. So on one side, the government should promote, but even whether they do or not, I'm sure with your counterparts elsewhere, this is where we can help the positivism. On a personal basis, every conference I attended, I have appealed everyone to come. The first thing, even 1 month ago, they said, visiting Sri Lanka is in my bucket list. They asked, is it safe? I say it's safe. Come back. So spread the news on your level you can bring. And I think this is something, and we are on the right track. Last year was the worst, and I think we are going to click, and numbers are going to increase. And already I think we have surpassed 1 million. So it will be only increasing and nothing to fall back. I think that's my firm belief.
Today, we have yet another interesting topic, driving business in tough times. And to introduce our speaker, I'd like to welcome Dr. Rohan Patakorla, the pioneer behind the MBA Diary series, to formally introduce our guest speaker. Doctor, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ruth. And we have a very eminent speaker today. He's a veteran in the healthcare industry with over 32 years of experience, currently serving as the Chief Executive Officer of Sunshine Medical Devices and the Lina Manufacturing. He has been driving both business to achieve remarkable success. Since joining Sunshine Healthcare in 2017, he has been leading the medical devices business to new heights, making it one of the best performing divisions in the group. Moreover, his recent appointment to the Lina Manufacturing, he has played a pivotal role in the financial growth of the company, which recently achieved its best financial performance in over a decade and has helped Sunshine Holdings sustain its growth over the last 2 years despite economically volatile situations. Before joining Sunshine Healthcare, he had various leadership roles at multinational and large-scale healthcare companies such as GlaxoSmithKline, Hemas, where he developed his expertise. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. T. Sayandhan, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Sunshine Medical Devices and Lina Manufacturing. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Patakorla. Thank you so much, and privileged to be here. So I would start off the session by saying, tough time never lasts, but tough people do. Let me repeat. Tough times never last, tough people do. And we all have undergone tough times in our recent times. So when doctor gave me this topic to speak, I was wondering what to do. And I thought the best would be for me to share some of the things which we did, because there cannot be a better example than Sri Lanka and us, what we underwent, because indeed we underwent tough times. Because if you recall, 2019, we had the Easter bombings, the economic head crisis. 2020, the COVID year 1. 2021, COVID year 2. And then 2022, it was a whole saga of drama, continuous economic crisis. And that's something which I don't think any of the Sri Lankans since independence would have ever experienced. I don't think your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, or great-grandparents, there would have never been a time where the dollar depreciated in such a huge percentage. I don't think they never stayed in a fuel queue for 3 days, or there would have never been a quota of fuel for 20 liters per week. I mean, these are all indications of really tough times which we underwent last year. But then, what do? These tough times come from the environment. It doesn't only affect, it's only for me, it's for everybody in the industry. It affects us. So I would call it, this is one of the pest factors which affect everyone. So how do we overcome that? So what did we do differently? Because even during this time, if you take the 4 years, I'm happy our businesses grew. So I have listed 10 things which we did and which had worked well for us. Based on the time, let me go one by one. So we do so many things in our organization from morning till evening, because though we have different objectives, we all have 24 hours, but we do multiple things. But when the tough time hits and when the revenue start dropping, when the pressure is on, I would always say number one thing is align to vision. There is a group vision. There is a dream that where you want to go and it's listed out. So focus on that. So if you are having other activities or non-value adding activities, I suggest take them off. Focus on the main alignment of your vision. So this is where your planning would come in. Because always if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I repeat, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So if you don't have a clear plan, what I'm going to do, so this is where the planning comes into place. So very important, because I always say, every day I wake up, I have 20 things to do, but I have only 24 hours. You have only 24 hours, be it student, be it business personnel, be it's the most richest person in the world. We all have 24 hours. And in that, we may choose to work 8 to 12 hours, and some extremes may work up to 15 hours. So in that, what are you going to do? Am I going to tick box all? No, it won't allow. So one of the key things, even when we go to work, this is where from your planning, what are your prioritized session? What is your priority? So I would always say, tick box those priority and start to work. So this is my number 2 mantra. So just plan and prioritize. I mean, you are not going to get anything and everything. So you need to focus. So just to be more aligned and to go on where the plan and priority should be, focus on your revenue streams. Because in an organization, there are multiple lines. If it's multiple product lines, multiple verticals, or multiple businesses, which you can bring your revenue. So I would bring the theory here, 80-20 principle, the Pareto principle. To date, I would have learned this theory 30 years ago, but even to date, it holds to be true because it's the 20% which bring 80% of the results. If you put in and see, sometimes it may be 30-70, but to make it very clear, I would say it's a small amount of key things which bring large amount of results, and large amount of things bring small things. So when you go tough times, when you are stuck for money, when you are stuck for time, when you are stuck for resources, and especially when the going is not good, this is where you should not let go your key revenue stream. Focus on that 80-20, the 20% or the 30% of the business which bring 80% of the revenue. So it's very important. Don't let them go. So this Pareto principle I have practiced in many places and it had worked well. Even in prescription, even in the industry that we work, if you take a particular product, we may have, say if you take 100 doctors, 80% of the prescription are given by 20 doctors. So in a tough time like that, you focus on that 20 doctors. Go back to outlets. There may be 3,000 pharmacies in Sri Lanka. If you do the Pareto, it's about 400 pharmacies out of 3,000, which bring 80% of the sale. So once again, it works. So during tough times, don't let this go 400, which are your key revenue earners. So that's my third key point I would like to mention. Focus on the key revenue stream, which brings the profit, which brings the revenue. Always notice during tough times, when the revenue drop, this is where the problem begins. 2 things for sure it's going to happen. We saw this during COVID. We saw this during last year. Your revenue drops and surprisingly, automatically the profit drop, but then your cost goes up. Last year, when the dollar, which was 190, went up to 370, subsequently it came to 340 and now we are around 320, 330. There was inflation. We were hit with 79% inflation. So with inflation, everything goes up. The fuel price goes up, the electricity price goes up, and with those 2 going up, anything and everything goes up in Sri Lanka. Or anyway, I mean, not only in Sri Lanka, it's a global recession as well. If somebody is thinking of recession, global recession, and the Sri Lankan situation is worse. So what happened? One thing for certain in your P&L, Revenue comes down, profit comes down, but your cost remains the same. Your financial accountant or your financial person will come and say, hey, your overheads is remaining the same. And as a percentage of business, you will see that rising. So what do? Generally, people cut down the promotion cost. People cut down the people cost, because generally in a marketing oriented organization or any organization which drive revenue through promotion to its customer, you will see people cost and promotion cost are one of the largest element when it comes to cost. And when you take the scissors or when you take the knife to cut it off, people cut these off. These are the two. But when you're during tough time, when you cut, what happens? This is where people get further demotivated. And then the vicious cycle comes. People come and say, hey, you cut down my promo money, I can't promote no sales. You cut down on people who brought the sales, I cannot bring anything. So you need to be very, very clear and sharp in what you do during times like this. So it's very important to manage costs. I would never use the word cut costs, but can't help. When the revenues come down, this is where you got to manage costs. And this is where you got to cut down waste. Because we as a team, when we sat down and look at our cost, we saw there were so many areas which were nice to have, but not essential to serve. Let me repeat. So when you write down your cost lines, so on your broad P&L, overheads will come as one line. When you break it down to two, you will have your advertising, your expenditure, your people, and then you break it down line-wise, line by line. There'll be hundreds of lines. Then you start ticking what is must to have, essential cost, and what is nice to have and non-essential. So whatever, this is where I would say manage costs, cut down waste. In a situation like this, first time we need to do is cut down waste. Last year, you and I were challenged. The salaries didn't go up the way 79% inflation took up. What did we do? We cut down waste in our families. We cut down our cost at home. So it's the same thing we need to repeat in our offices and in our businesses. So look at things which are non-essential. I'm sure there are hundreds of things. So keep the important element on, cut down waste, cut down the unwanted things, and look at what are the alternate methods. Link to that cost. Second key element or the next key element is manage people. This is where people cut down incentive, cut down people, cut down increment. For me personally, with experience, it had been the people who make or break organization, people who bring revenue. So if people who are bringing revenue in a tough time like this, if you cut down the cost, how are we going to manage? So this is where the vicious cycle starts again. You go and deal with people, you don't give increment, you cut down their incentives, you cut down on their bonus, and on top of it, you cut people. They call it the redundancy, or we are reducing people, multiple jargon may be used in corporates. So this is again a crucial time. This is where I would say manage people, manage talent. Here again, if you map, if you are in the leadership seat, together with your HR, if you map in an organization, there are performers, there are non-performers, there are average guys. Even in a sales team, Pareto principle works. This is what's wonderful about Pareto. If there are 100 sales reps, there are 20 stars who bring 80% of the sales or large majority. So there are organizations who treat everyone the same. There are organizations who consciously take care of talent. But in tough times, it's toughest call. In tough times and in difficult times like this, it's very, very important. You pay for performance, you reward for performance. This is where you take care of critical talent. Because if you lose the critical talent at this moment of time, it's going to impact your business. So are you going to make everybody happy and treat equally? Or is this the time to take a business call, manage your business? I may sound ridiculous on this point, but it's very, very key, because these are things we have done. During the tough time, we identified our critical talents. Who are critical talents? And mark my word, if there are 100, you will have 20. And sometimes it's so difficult to pick those critical talents. Who are star performers? I'm calling the stars. Like in a cricket team, you know who are the stars. In a rugby team, you know who are the stars. So how many of them? Without them, can you win games? In a cricket team, can you win that game without those stars? So in a sports team, if you say without these critical stars, you cannot win a match. Why aren't we practicing that in organization? This is where sometimes we tend to differ. So we need to think in that sports at performance. What we want is victory. Things are tough. It's a tough opponent, tough competitor. So we play our best in that time. Same attitude we need to take as well. Either we go and sit and cry on one end, things are bad, no sales, negative, or we got to say, hey, it's a tough competition. It's tough out there. This is the time I'm going to give my best. So I would always say, so manage that critical talent, identify that critical talent. And this is the time I would say, go ahead, even recruit. Believe me, in the last 2 years, I have gone and recruited critical talent. If you ask me how, there were organizations who treated everyone well. When you treat the performing guy and a non-performing guy the same way, who get upset? The performing guy. So when performing guys or talent in the industry get upset, that's where the competitors like us, we pick it up. So in tough times, recruit talent, develop talent, retain talent. It's very important. Let me repeat those big words again. During tough times, at the time when things are tough and when you want to perform, these are times I would say recruit talent, develop talent, retain talent. So people are an important element. Moving on, what else did we do? This is with the time, especially during COVID. So we are in healthcare, we developed our contacts with key customers. We became consciously closer to the key hospitals. If you take in Sri Lanka, the Asiri Group, the Hemas, the Lanka Hospital, Navaloka, they are the key hospitals. So sometimes these hospitals contribute the largest revenue. So it's important to develop and focus on those key hospitals which bring large. I just brought a healthcare hospital industry. It may be the same for you all as well. So focus on your key customers, key clients, whoever who bring that revenue, focus. And on the other side, to sell our product, we also have our key suppliers. Because during COVID time, we saw the supply chain breakdown. There were global issues, there were shipment issues. Sri Lanka, when we buy low quantities, we were low priority. So things were beginning to go out of stock. In addition to the dollar crisis, where we didn't have adequate US dollars to establish LC, or for that matter, LCs were not established. It got turned into advance payment or TT. And even that amount was capped. So multiple issues. So you don't have dollars, price is high. Even if you have dollars, we are given low priority, supply chain. So in a situation like this is the time you got to manage your suppliers. Believe me, we have suppliers who are there with us for decade, more than a decade, couple of decades. So when we went back and said, this is a crisis we are undergoing in Sri Lanka, generally these suppliers keep increasing prices. And last year was a global recession. So it was given, price increase was given. But mark my word, we went and appealed to certain key big suppliers and said, Sri Lanka is extraordinary. We are having 79% inflation. Already due to the dollar depreciation, prices have escalated. On top of it, if you further increase your CIF price or your transfer price to Sri Lanka, the cost is going to further increase and it's going to have a double impact. The units are going to come down. And when we lose out units on one side due to affordability, it's going to come down. Number two, due to competitive low price pressure, if the quantities are going to come down, on long term, we who will suffer to regain. And when we told this fact, our key suppliers, they maintained price last year. So this is the time. So the point that I'm trying to drive across, like you focus on your key customers, not everyone, key customers. It's time you go and negotiate with your key suppliers during the tough times as well. Because you can't have double blow. On top of the recession, you can't have another price up going up, which will completely throw you out. Sometimes it's a formula for you to close down businesses. I mean, last year, you know how many businesses closed down. And some of them are having an impact this year. See how many people are pulling out of Sri Lanka. I don't want to name them. See how many are in trouble. How many are unable to pay back their loans. Why? Because of these issues. So if you address these issues, which I mentioned, I'm sure you're going to achieve success somewhere. So let me continue. So this is where we went and negotiated with key suppliers. A, to supply. B, extended credit. There are suppliers. The agreement said 90 days LC. When we negotiated, and in fact, central bank or some of the banks gave only 180 days LC, they agreed for that. They say for 2022, it's an exception, and we granted. These are big global multinationals. And they kept back the price. So these are some of the examples of negotiation, how you manage your suppliers. My next key point during tough time is, and we often forget, communicate, communicate, and communicate. It's very, very important. We take things for granted. This is the time from top to the bottom to our teams in organization, we need to communicate. One of the key things which we had with experience during COVID time, we were not coming to office. We were not physically seen. There was a huge gap in relationship among employees, among teams. So that's the time we need to have engagement. Believe me, one of the things we did, we had a Friday night boost on LinkedIn and Zoom platform. There were people who brought up their own bottles. The non-alcoholics brought up their own drinks. We had a chat on Fridays. Why? To continue that camaraderie, to continue that teamwork. So these are some of the little things which paid off. So we didn't let go that socializing just because we were COVID, and especially from March 12th, 2020 till May 7th, 52 days we were under curfew, not lockdown. We were under curfew. We were not allowed to go. But the businesses were happening. Why? People had to eat, drink, get hospitalized, and the lives went on. So we need to do. So our organization have to keep going. So the normal things need to do. So that was one example. But what I'm saying is you need to communicate. You need to tell the organization, the employees, especially at the front end, the frontliners, what's going on. If there's a sales drop, if there's a loss, don't be ashamed. Tell the truth. So organization may take a decision of not paying a bonus. Either you can keep silent or it's good to communicate. This is where your transparency come into play. When there are tough times, when you communicate, there are employees who are willing to accept. But when you keep silent, people wonder, they don't know what happened. People get the signal, hey, are they going to close down? This is where your chats behind the wall take precedence. When the organization formal channel doesn't communicate, this is where your informal channels take over. And this is where the rumors and the wrong information get into the place. And at that time, if you use your critical talent, this is where the problem begins. So one of the key things which I found out, especially during tough times, lockdown, no lockdown, or even in a normal scenario, be transparent. And it's very, very key. Communicate, communicate, communicate. And that communication keep the team together. So one of the key things is this is the time to have multiple engagement events. So one of the things we did during the tough time is we were very, very strict on our HR engagement calendar. We had conscious engagement calendars. We had town hall meeting. We brought everyone. We asked, what are the issues? We heard them. And there again, there are things we can do. There are things we cannot do. So we were transparent enough to come back and say, hey, you suggested these things we are doing, but due to certain things, these we are unable to do. So when you say so honestly and transparently, people are happy about it because they know, hey, these points, they heard us and these things have been done and these are not done. So when you tell it honestly, people are aware. So part of communication, your engagement, engage them often, once in 3 months, call out a meeting, once a week, have a review meeting with your key business team, monthly reviews, weekly reviews, quarterly reviews. Appraisals is very critical during the time. One of the things we ensured physical one discussion with the appraisal, with your key personnel, one-on-one discussion. These are key things which sometimes organizations tend to forget. So these are some critical factors, how you engage, how you communicate, how you motivate, and finally, most importantly, you also have to inspire the people. Most of the organization, by theory, you have studied. It's not only money. People don't work for happiness. I mean, not only for the happiness doesn't come only from money. So this is where you got to be take a key leadership role and inspire the people. So this is the next key point. So moving on, my final point, which I would say, or what we did was never lose hope, be resilient. As Sri Lankans, we were resilient. I mean, we had multiple issues since 1948. And one of the worst for me in my life was last year. Of course, I was not there in 1948, but at least since I was born, one of the worst years was 1948. This is the time you had to be resilient. My father used to say, stand strong at the hardest hit. I'm sure Dr. Rohanta would practice the same. I mean, he being in martial arts, he would always practice, stand strong at the hardest hit. So here, it's not the physical hit, it's the mental hit. It's the environmental, economic hit. So during that tough time, this is where you need to be strong. So as leaders, one of the key things probably a lot of leaders don't take care is your physical fitness. For leadership, the leaders did well who were physically fit. I always believe on my personal workout, on my personal yoga, I did continuously. You won't believe it was during the COVID time. The yoga, which I did twice a day, I started doing every day because it's a lockdown. I can't go on the road for walks. So I started doing every day, and today it's becoming a habit of mine, just a personal example. And that helped me to manage because you were inside home, you had multiple meetings, you looking at the screen, you were losing your temper. But doing that yoga in the morning helped to keep my morale down. In fact, it so happened, I started doing yoga session for my employees at Independence Care, free of charge. Some examples. So physical fitness is very, very key if you have to bounce back, for you to be perseverant, and for you to have a good mental health. Because first thing we do during tough time is we panic. And when you panic, we don't know what to do. This is the time we lose our temper, we are emotional. But at this time, if you are physically fit, and if you can control ourselves, if you can control your breath, and if you can control yourself, this is where you arrive at right decision. So I was given 20 minutes. I was told I had to start at 2:10 and I'd have till 2:30. It's 2:29. So one of the things is time management. Even during tough time or good time, time will fly. These 20 minutes went like that. But keep a tab on your clock. The time keep clicking and you need to manage your time as well. So if I might summarize my 10 points quickly in a minute. So the first point we did is to align to vision. Second was plan and prioritize. Third was focus on the revenue stream, following the 80-20 principle. Fourth point, profits will erode, costs will rise, manage the costs and cut down waste. 5, look at alternate points, manage people, retain people, recruit, develop, and retain talent. The 7th would be to focus on key customers, focus on key suppliers. Next point is communicate, communicate, communicate. Also engage people, communicate with people, motivate people, inspire people. And finally, this is the time for you to be physically fit, for you to be resilient and perseverant. So with that, I will conclude my session and hand it over back to Dr. Athukorla. And by the way, he is my guru in 1992 to 1994. He taught me marketing and my gratitude 30 years ago, long time back. The learnings which I learned had not gone. And these are some things I practice practically, which also contributed in professionally some success as well. Thank you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm very proud of where you have achieved and where you're going. Amazing set of questions are coming. I'm going to throw one by one to you. The first question that is coming is from Salia. He's in Qatar. He's in project administration, and he's asking, do you think Sri Lanka is going to recover?
Okay, it's a tough call. Personally, I'm a Sri Lankan homegrown. I always and never give up. And Sri Lankan by nature is a resilient country. We always bounce back. We always had issues. And if you say we are going to come out of corruption, I will tell it's going to continue. So how to choose? So for me, somebody asked me, okay, you're saying corruption is thing. So I personally choose to ignore the politician, ignore corruption, and for me, life moves on. I take the same stance with my organization. I mean, we can move on. Who are customers? They are not politicians. I'm not selling to parliament. Tax keeps going, VAT keep going, true, but we have adapted to those. So either you can blame the country and say, we are not going to come and I can run over. The issues are global. People who see greener pastures, I don't want to talk about, but we know the issues are multiple. But it's depend on your self-belief, how you drive. So if you're a person who believe in yourself, if you're a leader who believe in yourself, Sri Lanka may be bad, India may be bad, but you thrive for success. So my answer to that question, sir, is it's your self-belief. If you are a resilient organization, if you are a powerful organization, drive yourself, you can achieve success anywhere on earth.
There's a question coming from Fazia. She works in Maldives. Very interesting. She's saying, do you feel that, in your view, with your experience, how can we make sure that tourism can be further exploited to make sure that we can help the government in terms of revenue management?
Definitely, it's a very important element. I think this is one of the key contributor to the economic situation where you and I are impacted, where the dollars would flow in. So one is to the government, right? So I already just said we are not going, we may depend on them, we may not. But this is something every level we can do. And already there are a lot of organization, be it Jetwing or Akan Spends or Hemas Travels or Acon or different people, they work on different groups and spreading the news of Sri Lanka. So I think I see back again, I think we have hit already the 1 million tourists back, and we believe we can bring 2.5 million. So on one side, the government should promote, but even whether they do or not, I'm sure with your counterparts elsewhere, this is where we can help the positivism. On a personal basis, every conference I attended, I have appealed everyone to come. The first thing, even 1 month ago, they said visiting Sri Lanka is in my bucket list. They asked, is it safe? I say it's safe. Come back. So spread the news on your level you can bring. And I think this is something, and we are on the right track. Last year was the worst, and I think we are going to click, and numbers are going to increase. And already I think we have surpassed 1 million. So it will be only increasing and nothing to fall back. I think that's my firm belief.
And then this is from Ruani. She's based in UK. She's also doing her master's from Staffordshire University from MAPIT. And she's saying, if you have to make one recommendation for the national budget 2024 to the president of the country, what would your proposal be?
That single proposal is, I think even with this year budget, the deficit is there. Cut the deficit. I think we need to get into reality. Still, we are on a voter-based, subsidy-based mindset. We are certain tough calls. Of course, we are very slow in taking tough calls. And we are going slow simply because this decision, they know it has an impact on the voters. And next year, there's an election coming up. So my single suggestion would be enough of sugarcoating, get into reality, no subsidies, show the true picture, get out of the woods. And that's the only single way we can get out faster. That will be my single recommendation. Get to the truth faster.
Azad from UAE, he's asking, your career is amazing, working at Smithland Beecham, Hemas, and now in one of the blue chips of Sri Lanka, which is Sunshine Holdings. Apart from what you said, is there some other secret that has made you to come to where you are?
Absolutely. I'll share my secret. At the age of 11 years plus, we had the 1983 riots, where my mother was a teacher and she wears a big motto and go on to she was a teacher at St. Sylvester. So everybody around the house in Hantana in Kandy knew we were Tamils. So they came to our house to kill us because we were occupying a government quarters. So at the age of 11, when we came to kill, only survival was to save our life. So for me, at the age of 11, I realized there's no other challenge than saving your life. So I saved the life, so I don't fear for anything else. Other than death, I need not fear. And today I have come where I'm not even afraid to die. So then it's easy to take challenges. So people talk about challenges, small thing, you lose that small thing, people cry. For me, no, life goes on, because at the age of 11, it came out. The second learning there is, because of that same year, it split our family into 5. My sister went to University of, she went to Katubedda. My brother went to University of Peradeniya. My father went on a scholarship to UK. So I was in a boarding house. So I learned to take care of myself from the age of 11. I was crying at that time. I was a kid, but that gave me early leadership lessons. I came out of the shell. I learned to take care of myself from very, very young days. Because of that, I married at 22. I had my son at 23. At 50, I have a son of 28 and daughter of 26. So that allowed me to take responsibility. And I took that, I'm going to drive it. One more point. My sister and brother, due to this incident, they left the country saying Sri Lanka is not the country. But I decided to stay back. And I'm happy that I made that decision. So these are some of the push personally, which allow me to be personal resilience. I hope I answered that question.
Brilliant, brilliant. There's Durukshani. She actually works in one of the blue chips in Sri Lanka. She's asking, what are the key customer changes that you have experienced in the last 1 year that you have never seen in the last 29 years?
Okay, very easy. So one of the things is we see the unit drop. People are not consuming because there's inflation. People are cutting down. So we see a unit drop. So the purchase sizes have reduced. The customer who paid in 90 days are now asking, they will say 90 days, they will ask for 120 days. In reality, they are paying in 150 days. And government is worse. Government is going up to even 360 days debtors. That's a totally a different thing. Let's stick to the private sector. So they are buying less. They are asking for more credit. And those customers, they are getting alternates. So earlier we sold on brands. I mean, my brand guru is Dr. Rohantha. Differentiation, selling brand was what we learned. So we sell that differentiation, but during this tough time, people say, hey, whatever the English you may talk, we are looking at cost. To these packages, we can include. So they were going for alternatives. So defending and getting those brands. And this is the time your advertising budget is cut. So coming back, people ask and negotiate for lower prices, more bonus. So I hope I answered. So in a nutshell, if I may know, the cut down on the price, they ask for more credit, they ask for lower price, better packages, and the trend continues. So these are some of the things which I saw in the customer behavioral change, especially in the last 1 year.
There's a question coming from Nipun. She heads HR in Rio in Tanzania. She's doing the master's from APIT. The question she's asking is, what are the changes you see that you would like to see in people in the future?
Okay, so in a Sri Lankan context, whether I like it or not, since last year, I hear the figure, we have 1 million people who are gone out. We have pilots who have left us. We have doctors who are leaving, and we can't stop. My son who will live in Sri Lanka, he has also gone to Adelaide. That's my own experience. So people will move on. It also now see the good example, I'll bring the pilots. When we didn't have enough pilots, the cabinet gave approval to bring overseas pilots. Tomorrow, this is going to be the reality in high skilled area. If we don't have people, we need to bring. The point that I'm going to come is we live in a large world. It's not Sri Lanka anymore. We are globalized. It's a global village. Talent will move multiple ways and the prices will move. It's a matter of time. So the talent will survive whether you're here or there, but it's going to move and people will pay a price for the talent. And that's what I see. And that's what I foresee in the future. It's a one global village and it's going to be shrunk economy.
Dr. Sayandhan, there's a question coming from her. She says that she doesn't want her name to be told. Okay. She's saying, I'm a youngster and I'm doing I believe in Sri Lanka and I'm prepared to go through some hard times. But every time I see negativity in every single initiative of the government. And it's not just a particular government, but successive governments. And right now, there's so much of challenge we see in every single direction in terms of cost, in terms of seeing the future with regard to budgets, and in terms of household expenditure. What is your advice to a youngster studying for a master's, expecting a little bit more of a conducive environment?
So I would advise even the next 50 years, the situation is going to be the same. The governments are the same. Negativity will increase. And it's only today lunch table, I was telling one of my, whom I had lunch with, initially when I was young, the negativity put me off. Then I started ignoring negativity. Today, negativity encouraged me. If somebody say you can't, I believe I can, negativity encourage. So it's all about yourself. Mark my word, government, there's not going to be positive. You will have negative. And also believe me, the more right things you do, you're going to have more enemies and more negativities. I mean, not only in Sri Lanka, anywhere it's the case, but Sri Lanka is a little more. So it's all about you being resilient, you being perseverance and believing yourself. And in a tough situation or a tough environment like this is where you need to be skilled. When the rest of the world is at 85%, if you are a person who can go up to 90, 95, you're going to achieve success, Sri Lanka or everywhere. So here the issues are a little more, but the issues are everywhere. But if you believe in yourself and if you are a star, you're going to shine. I'll further add up a story and conclude there. Imagine you're a sportsman, right? If you're a batsman, there are some people who will say, I will score my runs only at SSC. And they will say the pitch are bad. For what I say, if you're a brilliant cricketer, be it Australia, be it UK, be it winter, be it summer, be it West Indies, fast pitch, slow pitch, wherever you are going to shine. So be that star. Any pitch doesn't matter. Negativity. In spite of 135,000 last Sunday, Australia won. Wasn't it negativity? Because they believed in themselves. They had a strategy and they won. That's how it happened. So take negativity, every cheer, be that mosquito, that little mosquito, every time people try to hit, it thought people are clapping and it went higher and higher. So take the negativity as motivation, be that star, and that'll be the formula. And I'm sure there are 100 ways we can come out. Yes, there are 200 negativities, but if you think there'll be 100 positive points, which you can work, and that's going to be your success. I don't know, that's my answer.
Kalyan Ghosh, he's an Indian working in a BPO company in Sri Lanka. And he's asking, we see very high attrition in my company, as high as 47% annualized. What do we do to reduce it?
Sure.
He's on this program. He's right now listening to you.
Okay, super. So this is something personally I also had. So when we joined, even in my own organization, we had 30% attrition. And this is something coming from the board level, because some people ignore attrition, but I'm telling you, attrition is a very key thing to take care, because it's the people, I told you, I believe, people who bring success or failure, people who make or break organization. And that's something we cannot ignore. So some of the key things what we did was successful, which I already mentioned in the session, I'm going to repeat. Listen to your customers, have a town hall meeting, or listen what they are and be genuine about it. It should not be lip service. Listen to them, make it anonymous. If they don't believe in town halls, if their names are targeted, bring those anonymous chat or bring those anonymous platform and listen to their concerns. And once you listen, list down your concern, A, B, C. Go back to them and say, these are the things we'll do, and do it for God's sake. Don't wait for 1 year. Do it. You involve your HR and do it. So this is one formula. B, if you are treating all the employees the same way, it's high time to look for performers. Performers need to be taken care. And if you take a mediocre guy, an average guy, and a performer, if you give the same 10% increment, if I'm the performer, I'll go to a place where they reward 15% for the performance. So together with HR, formalize them. Your bonus scheme, your incentive scheme, your pay scheme has to be different from performer to non-performer. And this is how you'll encourage. And initially the attrition may go up, but it will settle down. And have more one-on-one meetings, have more review, talk to the people, and work on talent development. So it's not only one, encouragement. So that's why I said recruit talent, develop talent, and finally retain talent. Do a lot of programs for these people, a development path. A guy who doesn't know where he will be tomorrow may leave and go. But if you know these are your development path, this is how you're going, that's the time you will see talent retaining. So I gave about 3 points. I'm sure at least one of them will help you in managing your attrition.
Doctor, there's a very interesting question they're asking you. It's Amma. I think he's based in Myanmar. He's saying, if you didn't become CEO of Sunshine Holdings and being in the pharmaceutical industry right across your life, what other job would you have done and what would you have become?
Seriously, I don't know how to answer this, because by default, I'm in the healthcare, and 32 years I would have been healthcare. But what would I become? So definitely I would have dealt with something to do with customers, because initially when I chose the job in 19 years, I started working at the age of 19. Going and sitting in one place or bank or accountancy didn't work. That's something I could not do. So definitely something involved in customers, interacting with customers, And now I'm giving back, like I enjoy giving back more and more. So it will be something related to that. So looks like definitely it'll be in sales and marketing. So I don't know where it would have taken off, but definitely my education together with the organization I work for helped me. But the attitude I adopt, I firmly believe wherever I would have been or whatever the job, my target would have been to reach the top. So whatever the industry, I would have seek to be on the top. At the age of 19, my dream was to become a managing director, but I ended up as a CEO at the age of 40. So I would have gone across the organization. And tell you one more add to that point, where I joined Glaxo generally people work for 30, 40 years. But to achieve that growth, after 10 years from Glaxo, I went to Hemas. And I was in a very comfortable position called country manager. It's a retirement post. But still to become a CEO, I left Hemas and joined Delmage. At that time, Mr. Damika Parra purchased Delmage. And people said, hey, this is not the place to go. But still I went to achieve my dream because 40 was my mark. I thought I'm going to achieve it. And from there, I was able to, since I went as a CEO, that helped me to come to Sunshine as a CEO, which is a larger blue chip company. So I personally drove for my growth. I did the changes. So I would have taken a similar path if not for this. And even in this, I didn't stick to one organization, but I kept moving to achieve my success.
Last question, Doctor. I assure
Sure.
you. It's coming from Yasir. Yasir. He's in Doha. Very interesting question. He's saying, so where will you be in the next 3 years?
Okay. So as I said, first 20, I started at 19. The first 10 years of my career had been my learning. I was at Glaxo, and I'm thankful I joined Glaxo because of Glaxo experience, I'm here today, where I learned my ABC. And Glaxo is one organization which is fully compliant to compliance, and it's a process-driven company. So my first 10 years is where I learned to do things. And there, from a medical rep, I rose up to category manager, where I took a call. I'm going to leave to Hemas for growth. I went as a country manager. So this is where the responsibility came. Overall Sri Lankan business, I was responsible at Hemas, working for two multinational called Allergan and Abbott Medical Optics, where I managed a team. So this, at that time, I was more like a Hitler. I was very authoritarian. I was very aggressive, and results came in. At that time, it worked. Sometimes I wonder how, but it worked. And that was my 30 to 40. At 40, I chose to be wanted to make the change as a CEO. And this is where 100 plus people came in my team. And I saw people more experienced. And this is the time the reality hit me. There are people who know more than me. I had to change my leadership style. So from 40 to 50, I became more of delegation, getting things done, team to achieve. To answer your question precisely, finally, I'm incoming. Where am I going now? After 50, I feel I wanted to achieve, I got what I wanted. I want to give back to society. Even this program, when Dr. Rohanta asked, I said, yes, sir, tell me when. I'd only find the thing. I enjoy doing this. Every Sunday, I do free yoga session. I want to give back to society. Every Christmas, I give equivalent gifts to my age. And I believe in that. So if you ask me, not only next 3 years, from now till my death, if I can develop more leaders, if I can give back the society, and that's how I see myself. And giving back the society, don't think you need money. When you go on the floor, go out on the road, give your smile to someone. And if you can make another person smile, you're making somebody happy. A person who is unable to cross the road, hold the hand and cross, you're giving back the society. If somebody drops something, pick it up and give that person, you're giving up at that society. You're going in a public transport, an elderly lady or a pregnant lady or a Hachi Amma come, get up and offer that seat, you're giving back that society. It doesn't cost anything. So there are so many ways when you think if you want to give back, you can give back. And I wish I knew, but I'm happy that I started. So this is where I see myself in the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Chief Executive Officer of Sunshine Medical Devices and Lina Manufacturing, Dr. T. Sayandhan. Thank you very much, Dr. Sayandhan. It's lovely meeting you once again, and we monitor each other on Facebook and Insta. It's amazing to see the kind of places that you've been. And when I did contact you, it was just a stroke of a pen, like where you said, I'm going to come. Let's agree on a time. So I wish you all the best, and Ruth, over to you.
Hey, Dr. Rohanta. Thank you so much, Dr. Sayandhan. It's lovely having you on our platform, and I'm sure our students who've joined in today as well as anybody who comes across this session, they would really take a few things from your insights and your many years of experience. Because as you clearly mentioned, it's not just one style that you've maintained all throughout. You've evaluated yourself and you've continually improved on your own performances. So this is something I think one and all can learn from, and strive to be an individual who continually seeks for improvement for personal success as well as the success of your organization. That is indeed great insights and very valuable to our MBA students. So as we draw to a close of yet another wonderful MBA Diary session, I'd like to remind our industry partners that at UPIT, we do have a well-structured, a good internship program. And if you do have any openings for internships or any job vacancies, do send it our way for our students. And if you do have employees in your organization looking to upskill, do email us, call, or even have a walk-in, because we have some newly launched MSc programs, MS in marketing, MS in IT, MSc in cybersecurity as well. So with this, last but not least, I'd like to thank our IT team for the technical support extended throughout this session. Today being a Sunday, I'd like to thank our students who've logged in. After all, knowledge is power. So indeed, this was a very insightful session. So as we draw to a close, I'd like to wish everyone a good day, a good afternoon, and a good evening from wherever you're joining in. Till the next session.